I think it actually can be pretty interesting to see how things shape up, but we'll maybe talk about how things are going to actually look in this game after we maybe resolve the pause over here. Looks like there's a small little hotkey setup over there for PartinG that's going to go ahead and resolve. But yeah, I was saying, I think that Neeb is a really funny case because sometimes he looks indestructible against a lot of the shenanigans for PvP and everything, and sometimes he actually, it seems like he kind of falters a little bit more easily. Really depends on his form.
All right, well, Fear Dragon, I know you want to introduce the map in the bottom left, so I'm going to let you keep on talking.
All right, down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, the Protoss in the red from the US of A. He is a thunder shaft in the room. He is Neeb.
And down in the bottom right-hand side, our blue Protoss player is PartinG.
Already feeling good about these spawns, Wardy, just because, as you can tell, the map is all very red-themed with the red outlines on the base. Neeb is, in fact, the red player. Even the slow zones are red. This is effectively Neeb playing on his home territory.
Home territory by the color they got randomly assigned. I love it, Fear Dragon. It is Blackburn, and that means that right away we've got to talk about the one thing that'll be very different to the rest of this series, which is this will be one gate expansion focus. Because of that ramp up into the natural expansion, you can get a wall up early, and just going one gate expand is then very normal. Some people will go one gate tech, one gate Stargate is extremely popular, for example, as well. If I had to make a guess, PartinG would be the player to drop down a Stargate, while maybe Neeb went more kind of expansion-focused, just because the Koreans do have that kind of tendency to be a little bit more aggressive, but it really could be kind of either or from both of them. Both are fairly standard setups, and they both have to go for the Zealot here as well, because, of course, you've got to be really, really cautious. If your opponent starts blocking you and putting down, you know, the pylon in your natural, you've got to be able to kill that.
Yeah, really interesting. I do want to note, though, is that PartinG didn't actually send a probe across the map. He's sending his probe all the way up to the top right-hand side, sending it around, potentially looking for a lot of the proxies and stuff, and we'll see if he does anything else with that probe. But Neeb actually sent his probe across the map, and you were talking about that one-gate expansion situation. The reason why you need to get the Zealot is because your opponent can potentially block your natural with a pylon, slow things down. Neeb didn't have to worry about that. So interestingly enough, he gets to cancel his Zealot, and he's going to be able to get up potentially his Nexus a little bit faster than PartinG because he saved 100 minerals.
And you can just see the timing of everything, right? The Stargate from Neeb is halfway done while PartinG puts his down already. You know, Neeb is going to be having himself already. The Nexus started too, so big difference here as PartinG just falls. I mean, PartinG's ahead a little bit of workers, and obviously he's ahead a couple of units as well. One of those being a Zealot, but he also invested into the Stalker over the Adept. So Neeb's build is just much greedier, but it was allowed to be greedier. He's now walled off in full. And let's see what happens as that Adept does get caught. The one problem with the Adept is it shouldn't threaten too much across the map, whereas the Zealot Stalker combo could push up the ramp at least and put some pressure on. Okay, let's just take the gold base, why don't we? And with the full wall off there, Neeb doesn't necessarily think to say, oh, there's no natural expansion because he can't see that far. That Adept shade. Yeah, I mean, if he goes over there, that's a brilliant scout. What a scout from Neeb!
Oh my god, that's amazing. I don't even think that Neeb was intentionally scouting that location. He's just sending his Adept along the safe area, and now a Void Ray pops out, which is enough to combat the Stalker, so the Zealot and the Stalker have to retreat. Adept looks like it will probably end up getting picked off over here by the Stalker of PartinG, which is definitely a nice little win, but the scouting has been done, like we said, and now it feels like Neeb has been able to get up a faster Nexus. He's very much in the know about the situation, but Wardy, how do you actually play it out from here as both of these players?
I have no idea, because Stargate against Stargate doesn't usually go Void Ray versus Phoenix. And I think it's very good for PartinG just say, right, Twilight Council, I'm not going to stick to Phoenix. The couple Voids into an Oracle, it's fascinating. And with that Oracle, I think the big thing is it's going to be difficult to be everywhere with units. So you can shield battery each mineral line, but the Oracle will still be able to kind of come in, stasis ward, etc., and all that kind of stuff.
It's really important to note also that PartinG is fully walled off, so he has to recall his Stalkers back into the main base if he wants to get them in to help defend against the Void Rays, but he recalled the probes over the gold, so it's just the Phoenix over here. He can depower both of the gateways. The recall comes out, one of the Void Rays was in range of the Stalker, so it does end up falling. It's a slight halt in production there for PartinG, but I mean, getting a Void Ray is actually really nice there, and the shield battery is also prepared at that gold base, so PartinG is pretty well set up.
Yeah, that pulsar beam obviously wasn't ever going to do anything, but at the same time, I'm not sure a stasis ward. You saw how fast PartinG pulled the probes anyway, so I don't think a stasis would have done much else. PartinG goes very fast Dark Shrine. So he is immediately thinking to himself, right, let's get into DTs because you're very Stargate focused, right? And because he built more than just like, you know, an Oracle or so initially.
It's recalls on cooldown. You can't recall this.
Yeah, so this Oracle's going to die, but because he built 2 Voids, then an Oracle, it's super expensive, right? And that means that any sort of follow-up tech is going to be late. You almost always go Blink at some point in PvP early, because if your opponent has Blink and you don't, you're just in trouble. So the Dark Shrine is a really good choice based on what Neeb is doing. He's just going to have no detection. The Oracle is dead, obviously. You can build a new Oracle, but one Oracle being built is bad because you can only put 1 Revelation down every so often, and you just know what happens then. 2 DTs split up, and that's where the nightmare begins. We'll see what they can do as the Dark Shrine is done, and 2 DTs do warp in. They're going to have a bit of a journey across the map, but they are going to wreak chaos on Neeb's base.
Now, it's worth noting, if you look at Neeb's base, he is fully walled off, and he actually is going to have a little bit of a hard time getting the probe out until he does a little pylon trick. For those who don't know, this is a common strategy for the cannon rushers and stuff. Get a probe out there, but this does mean the DTs don't have direct access to the base here of Neeb. And remember, PartinG, he did poke forward earlier on. He saw the full wall off over here, but the most he can do right now is work away at the wall in. And, well, he's going to be able to get the Stargate.
It's the freaking Stargate in the wall, and that's his only detection.
The shield battery should be able to heal it.
I mean, yes, he can for a little while, but that's 3 DTs going to work right now.
Overcharge, right?
He's going to have to have force field, I suppose. I didn't think about that.
Wait,
oh, he bought the Archon to block the force field. He's going to lift the Stalkers up because he wants to try and guarantee this. The super battery comes down, and now it's an Archon and a DT, and he will not break in. Okay, yeah, the full wall-off was really good, but I think PartinG also could have backed away and gone for a cancel on the 3rd base that he just hasn't checked for yet. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity, so... Okay, full wall and obviously defends, but... Yeah, I mean, definitely still scary because that was very, very close. And with no battery in that wall, it's a very different circumstance as to what could have happened otherwise.
Yeah, what's also kind of interesting is, yes, of course that, well, this is kind of funny, seeing the Stargate actually getting killed and the shield battery still healing it a little bit.
It's still at an Oracle building.
I was going to say, the Archon is still pretty low on shields, so I don't think PartinG wants to take a fight immediately right now, especially with more of these units being warped in, but until there's detection, Neeb should have a hard time moving down the ramp.
He's got an Observer about to come out, so this is really nice. He's going to get an Archon. Okay, PartinG's in a lot of trouble, I think, because what's about to happen is that Neeb has 7 gates against the 4, and as they fight here already, like, this army is kind of somewhat even. But the reinforcements are going to come much more so in Neeb's favor than PartinG's. Neeb wants to attack. He's had that gateway top side of the map for a long time now. I think PartinG is making a mistake by trading here already because, like I say, Neeb's reinforcements should be able to do a lot, but... Man, credit to PartinG. He just knows when to fight because this trade has gone way better for him than expected, and Neeb just can't seem to keep his units up and running. Now that Void Ray goes down, some extra Stalkers are showing up, and he will start to clean up, and now, you know, the scales tip in Neeb's favor. Will it be enough?
Yeah, that Nexus is so low on hit points just from the Zealot and a few units working away at it. The Oracle did finally clean it up, but now Neeb has to take the fights over here at this awkward low ground area. This is definitely not where Neeb wants to have to fight, but if he gives up any ground, the Nexus is actually going to be vulnerable. He needs time to at least regenerate shields there.
I just wish Neeb had a chance to get 2 Adepts on the top side of the map so he could hit from behind the gold base, because even if you just stop the gold base mine, that would be neat. Here we go, another Blink Stalker fight kicking off.
Oh, no,
the Oracle shows up as well, and that's going to be a few probes at least. So Neeb is going to even up the worker count as he has the +1 advantage too, and he's going to keep trading here. He's also going to be up against charge soon, but that's not going to help unless PartinG can afford to get those Zealots in play. That might be something else, another investment from PartinG that Neeb can take advantage of right now.
Yeah, Neeb has to be really careful over here. The Nexus is getting focus fire down. It is going to end up falling, and remember, PartinG does still have his 3rd Nexus up. Neeb really needs to be able to find some really solid trades over here if he wants to continue his chance in this game. The Oracle doing some nice damage is good, and he is keeping things actually like not in the worst position, because remember that gold base is going to mine out sooner. There's actually going to be a point where PartinG will be back on 2 bases in the relatively near future, but until then, PartinG is still going to have a nice economic lead.
It's funny, it's like something I almost forgot about, that PartinG's just on a gold base. He's just got that boosted economy, and that's obviously helping with trades like this. I was thinking he's got less gateways, but he was just able to put those gateways to full use all the time, and hence being able to take these good fights. Still fighting, you know, with this upgrade advantage as well, PartinG. Sorry, I think I said Neeb had the upgrade lead earlier, but that was the wrong way around. I'm getting my colors mixed up for the first game of the day. So yeah, PartinG having that upgrade lead obviously helps a lot too, and right now continue to put the pressure on. I think Neeb's in some trouble. This Immortal ain't going to last very long as the Stalkers actually blink up. I thought they might have just fully focused the Immortal, but don't think it's quite going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few more reinforcing stalkers coming in here for Neeb, but there's a reinforcing stalker wave from PartinG that's going to end the game and bring the series 1-0 up in his favor, starting off DreamHack strong today.
Yeah, PartinG just had that gold-based economy. That's something that's so tough to kind of do anything about, right? You know, it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, I got the gold base, I'm mining so much more than you all of the time. And then even when the DTs didn't really do necessarily very much, right?
Yeah.
In the end, it did wail away on that third base, leading to that to die. And the gold base just offset the DTs not doing a lot. And then PartinG just had that +1. That obviously helps in a lot of the fights too. And a lot of that was why PartinG was able to take enough of a lead to close out game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite exciting things about PvP, especially on some of like the slightly less normal maps like Blackburn or something. Obviously, it's, you know, it's no Beckett Industry, but it does have some interesting choices that you have to make in game situations you aren't maybe getting into every single day, where both players open up Stargate, but PartinG opens up with Phoenix and fully walls off and takes the gold. And Neeb, he gets all the information, but it's like you have to make snap judgment calls. Like, how do you actually capitalize on things in this position? And it looked like he was maybe going to have something there, but then losing one of his Void Rays and stuff. It's like things started going wrong, I feel like, in the early game phases of it. And then the DT stuff that you were talking about really just started making things more difficult.
It was just such an interesting opener to see someone go double voids against the Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Because, and this was obviously the moment where that Stargate just survives, but it's just interesting because so often you talk about, you know, Stargate versus Stargate, and when you have Stargate versus Stargate, it's either like, oh, one guy goes Oracle, the other guy goes Phoenix, or it's Phoenix versus Phoenix. It's so rare you see someone open not just one Void Ray because they were a little bit worried, but like a second Void Ray. And that's why I really thought the DTs were a really cool choice. Obviously, you go up against the full wall in, and that makes it a bit different. If that battery isn't there, Neeb just loses the game, though. So
yeah, you
can see why the idea was absolutely good from PartinG. Good for Neeb to have a backup plan. It's going to be really interesting to see what the heck happens in game number 2.
But I mean, I also really want to actually commend PartinG, especially toward the later part of that game, on the Blink Stalker marker. You were kind of pointing this out, and frankly, there were a good number of times that during those little Stalker versus Stalker trades, whether it be because of the concave advantage or just straight up the Blink Stalker saving themselves from like taking extra damage and everything, PartinG was actually winning those fights because a bit of more of his micro was better. Neeb was doing overall pretty decent, but you definitely see like that's one of PartinG's biggest strengths. You have to be able to overcome that.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a look into game number 2, because we're going to go to a very different map for sure. We're going to start off in the bottom right-hand side of Lightshade with the red Protoss player from Ting. It is Neeb.
And up over here in the top left-hand side of the map, our blue Protoss player sitting up 1-0. He is PartinG.
Fear Dragon, how come you've never made a pun involving PartinG and Ting Neeb?
I have actually. Check my Twitter. If you Google for PartinG, or if you Twitter search for PartinG and Ting, I've already made the joke.
It wouldn't show up. I still have you muted from the last one.
I'm pretty sure I tagged Ting as well in it, and suggested that if they're ever going to pick up another player, they just have to pick up
Ting PartinG.
Oh no, I said that PartinG has to rename himself to just Par.
Oh, so he can Ting Par.
I mean, it's only par for the course if he does something like that, right? PartinG.
But okay, so 2 gateways each. Obviously, the biggest difference in PvP when you go from a map which you can 1-gate expand on, like Blackburn or Oxide, into pretty much any other map in this map pool. There's very few players who try and 1-gate expand on the maps without the ramp up into the natural. It was a thing for a while for quite a few players, but nowadays it's just Max Packs that does that. So it's just too vulnerable. There's so many different all-ins, and even if you know that they're coming, they can still just kill you. So right now, 2 gates each, and the big question obviously comes when the Cybercore finishes. What are we going to see in terms of units? Are we going to see double Adept? Are we going to see Stalker Sentry? Because that will set the tone for the early game.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the first thing that we're going to be looking out for usually in one of these PvPs is kind of what's the first 2 units coming out of those gateways. And, you know, there's some safer options and stuff with, like, Stalker Sentry and everything. I think that's one thing we didn't really get into that last game because both players open up with Stargates. Sentries or Adepts or, you know, basically scouting units can be really, really important in PvP. Keep an eye out on what your opponent is doing. Because PvP, there are so many things you can do this matchup, Wardy. Like, it is one of those matchups where if you're in the dark, it feels really bad. It really does feel like options just are gradually opening up for your opponent.
With double Adept here, Neeb spends less right away versus the double Stalkers. That does give you the option of maybe throwing down a faster Stargate or so if you would like to. So definitely a possibility there as the Adepts do pop out. And that probe has just wandered in. It's going to be a double Adept into double Sentry. So you are going to get hallucinations available to you. And what that means is obviously you get them up. It's not the fastest possible. You could go like Stalker Sentry. PartinG is just going to go straight up aggressive. And that's one thing about like multiple Stalkers. If you're going to go this many Stalkers, it's very expensive to then expand as well. So he's dropping that Robo down. He's going to throw down a third gateway, and he's just going to get very aggressive in general.
I mean, I actually think this is such a great start here for PartinG, because but going for the pylon block, he goes to the pylon block before he sees the Adepts, right? The Adepts take a really long time to kill the pylon. Neeb follows it up with double Sentry after that, which also don't have crazy damage output. Right now, Neeb basically has a kind of later Nexus than he originally wanted to get, and now as he moves out with the Adepts, these Stalkers are actually going to encounter them in the center of the map. So this is already a good win. Even if the Adepts manage to survive without taking a lot of damage over here, if these Stalkers continue pushing, there's just 2 sentries back at home for Neeb, and he's going to barely start having some of these other Stalkers popping out.
The worst thing is that he's going for the Dark Shrine. I think that's why he went for the Twilight so quickly. And it's just one of those things by going for such a fast Dark Shrine. Usually against the majority of Protoss builds, it can do really well. It's very rare you see a Robo first, but this is going to be one of those aggressive times. Now, there's not going to be an Observer straight away, but if PartinG just makes sure he's certain not to die to anything and he goes Observer after this Prism, now that's expensive, don't get me wrong, but if he does, then he's got a full shutdown on the DTs, and he can probably just close this game out. He's going to have a huge amount of army to work with here already.
Yeah, I'm really curious about Neeb's... I mean, it kind of makes sense. Neeb is going to try and defend the low ground. He has a shield battery there and everything. But he did get up to the high ground and see. PartinG was fully walled off, had no Nexus or anything. So he should have a good idea how aggressively all in right now PartinG is trying to go. And, I mean, it's just going to be nonstop Stalker Warpins over here. Neeb... if he's able, I mean, he's about to get up that Dark Shrine.
He's going to have DTs, yeah.
But
there's just no Observer, right? So the problem is, if you get DTs here defensively, you need an Observer on this side of the map. But then if you also put a DT on the other side of the map, well, that's going to be a problem as well. There's the DT. If PartinG can see that right now, he'll hear it now. Of course, it starts to slice. Well, this is obviously the point at which you need to start getting the Observer, and there it is. And PartinG has to back away. The only thing I would say here for your Dragon is, woohoo! PartinG's going to go forward again. He's going to try and jump on these units, get rid of the Stalkers. I was going to say, if he just backs off, waits for the Observer, he does have that option of saying, hey, you know what? I'll just get an Observer and push again. But right now, he's just going to keep on going for it, saying, hey, this one DT, it ain't doing enough to justify how few other units you have. And with the Observer out, I mean, Neeb's the one losing workers. This one DT will get a pylon kill, but the Observer's about to be here, man, so this DT will not do the damage that Neeb is looking for.
Yeah, compared to the damage that Neeb is taking back at home, he's also trying to get up these shield batteries. He's going to be able to snipe off maybe 1 or 2 workers over here. I think he's trying to rely on the fact that PartinG is busy micro on this side of the map with the War Prism, so maybe the DT would be able to get out of there alive for a little bit, but yeah, Neeb is taking way too much damage to make this all cost effective. He is already down in workers.
He's up a base though, right? So
he is,
PartinG does have to keep going. It's that's the issue though, right? It's like, I don't see what like Neeb has now to stop PartinG, an Immortal on the way, but he just has so few other units anyway, right? And so as soon as the Observer shows up and this one DT is no longer an issue, I do really think that, okay, there it is. Woohoo, okay, though, the Super Battery is doing a lot. Now he's going to jump on the Stalkers, but he's not going to have the damage. PartinG has misplayed this a little bit, and that Super Battery saves way more than it should have done. And that is going to be PartinG backing away. And now does Neeb have a hold with an Immortal out and a Nexus advantage if he can save it? Well, maybe. Those Stalkers are super low HP.
I'm becoming a believer right now, Wardy. I mean, clip it and send it to Hellraiser, but he does need to be able to make his way down over here and snipe off some of the more of these units. I believe Neeb also, did he start up his own Observer? He might be able to snipe off the Observer over here.
He didn't. He's just been
no, he didn't.
Yeah, Immortals. But he's about to have 2 Immortals, which is huge against only 10 Stalkers.
Yeah.
It's just 10 Stalkers doesn't quite do the job fast enough, I don't think. So you're going to lose a good few right away. We're now at 13. That's a little bit more comfortable, of course. Prism isn't here yet. Prism would be massive, of course, because the moment you get a Prism is the moment you can save those Immortals sometime, but not ready yet. We go for Immortal number 1. Look how long it lasts. Love that he got the other barrier activated on the bottom Immortal, though.
This is also that excellent micro that we were talking about with PartinG. He is picking up the Stalkers that are getting attacked or target fired and dodging the shots. It's not, oh, the damaged units will get to the back. It's your damage attack for like that entire wave of Stalker fire is just completely gone. It's like your Stalkers are on a move command for a moment.
He just recalled something back home. I mean, Okay, he does have 3 observers, so it's just a different observer. I didn't know how many he had. We go up into this main base. Obviously, the super battery activates again, and PartinG, I think his biggest downfall in this game is that he just keeps on being too aggressive. He has no reason to run up this ramp necessarily right here and now when he's trying to deal with the DT at home. But he does, he runs into another super battery, and Neeb is able to make a defense that now evens out the game a lot. With an immortal count that keeps on growing here for Neeb, that's obviously a big deal because the more immortals there are, the tougher it is for PartinG to break through. And if PartinG had just kind of sat on that low ground, stopped Neeb from expanding and expanded himself, great position. But instead, he tries to end the game, and by trying to end the game, well, now it's going to get awkward because Neeb is not far from being able to come down, take his own nexus again. Man, PartinG is still just warping in Stalkers, though. He is just going non-stop.
I mean, he doesn't have any other tech. I don't think he can afford to make a whole lot of other tech. And granted, Neeb is also not exactly in a super economically wealthy position. But remember that Neeb is perfectly fine playing on the defensive side as he's building up immortals. He's even getting up his own observer finally and everything. He does have the ability to make archons and stuff out of those DTs if he really needs to, and he has a little bit of that map presence with him as well. And he's even going to be able to spot out this warp prism and some more of these stalkers being warped in the center. Like, he knows the attack is going to be coming again. Neeb is totally fine, just finding ways to be the defender over here.
Really feel like PartinG was a mistake there to not have an observer on his army. That should have been a DT kill that can now keep wandering the map. And he actually lost one observer. He had one observer out the front and one observer like over the army as well. So it's like almost like a double scout, right? And one of those goes down, but that's because it was stood right over the army. Like one at home, that obviously makes a lot of sense. As
he sends the prism out.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? I think he's got enough at home just to defend anyway, so gonna bypass the 2 stalkers at the front. You get a few more probe kills here. You're just gonna keep making life difficult. I think we've got ourselves Neeb looking fantastic in this game. PartinG has basically one big attack left to go for here, and it's coming up right now, but I just don't think he's gonna break through the immortal count.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Neeb can just either let that DT just continue to focus down more probes or just pick it up into the Warp Prism and be annoying later, because right now, all he has to do is defend over here. He does end up losing that first Immortal, second Immortal to getting target fired down, and PartinG is microing his heart out with that Warp Prism, but with even a recall coming out just to get the extra DT or so back home, or actually, no, the Prism
for micro.
Yeah.
Is he actually going to lose because he didn't have the Prism at home?
He has a shield battery on the high ground, so if he loses... I mean, it's not going to be ideal if he ends up having to lose his Nexus on the low ground, but he does have another Immortal coming out.
I know. I guess you still got PartinG behind on the tech, as we've talked about already. Look at the difference that the Prism makes and all the micro you can get out of it. These Stalkers obviously doing okay. That Immortal not firing all of the time. As long as Neeb keeps the Nexus up, he's okay. The Prism takes some shots. Super Battery obviously has to come back in for the Immortal. Does save it. 2 more Stalkers from PartinG as he keeps it up, but you've still got to break through an Immortal and perhaps the Prism as well. It ain't easy. You can just see the Stalkers of PartinG going down. That Immortal, every time it gets to shoot, is doing so much, but it's stuck on the Stalkers at the moment.
Yeah, this ramp is causing so many problems for Neeb, and if he goes too far forward, he's gonna lose the Prism and the Immortal!
The game just ended.
Oh my god, Neeb taps out. PartinG, in a moment, recovers the game. Both of these players holding their heads, shaking their heads. I don't think either of them are happy with the way that game went down, but at the end of the day,